The soft glow of Kadhir's desk lamp cast long shadows across his cluttered workspace. Open books, scribbled notes, and half-finished diagrams lay scattered, a testament to his growing obsession. The room felt heavy, burdened by hours of unanswered questions. Kadhir rubbed his tired eyes, focusing on a worn leather journal about time travel theories. Each page pulled him deeper into quantum mysteries and temporal paradoxes. Were these surreal experiences just dreams, or gateways to something far more extraordinary? Flashes of memory lit his thoughts, cryptic encounters with other versions of himself, shadowy onlookers who vanished the moment he noticed them, glimpses of swirling vortices that bent space and time. He tried to piece it all together, but every clue slipped away just as he grasped it. A sharp knock startled him. He turned to find Ravi, his father, standing in the doorway, concern etched into every line of his face. "Kadhir," Ravi said, his voice heavy with worry, "how long will you bury yourself in this? You're losing your family, your health. Can't you see what it's costing you?" A pang of guilt cut through Kadhir. He had shut out the people who mattered most in his quest for answers. "I'm sorry, Dad," he managed. "I didn't realize. I'll fix it." Ravi's gaze softened, only slightly. "Nisha's worried too," he continued quietly. "Don't let her carry this burden alone. Let her in." At the sound of Nisha's name, Kadhir's chest tightened. He thought of her patience and gentle worry, and how he distanced himself from that warmth. Later, Kadhir sat alone in the living room. Sunlight streamed through the windows, but the warmth didn't ease the chill of his loneliness. His best friend, Arjun, slipped in, concern shaping his expression. "Nisha reached out to me," Arjun said softly. "She's worried, Kadhir. She loves you, but she feels you're slipping away." Kadhir met Arjun's gaze, a knot of realization forming in his stomach. "You're right," he said, his voice low. "I've shut her out. I need to change that." Arjun's hand settled on his shoulder, firm but reassuring. "She's with you, Kadhir," he reminded him. "You don't have to face this alone." Something in Arjun's calm resolve rekindled Kadhir's determination. He resolved to rebuild the connections he had neglected. A sudden surge of recollection stirred in Kadhir's mind, flashes he couldn't fully explain, guiding his younger self with riddling advice. His mother's sorrowful yet knowing glance in a long-ago moment, standing among those eerie silhouettes, watching events unfold without the power to change them. Each memory felt like a puzzle piece to the mystery that consumed him. Not long after, Kadhir found Nisha in the living room. She sat quietly on the couch, tracing patterns on the cushion, her eyes distant. At his approach, she looked up, a mix of relief and apprehension in her gaze. "Nisha," he began, "I'm so sorry. I got so caught up in my own head that I forgot what truly matters." She took his hand, her touch warm and familiar. "I'm here for you, Kadhir," she said gently. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." A weight seemed to lift off his heart. Cautiously at first, then with growing conviction, he opened up about the research scattered on his desk. She listened in calm silence, her presence a steady beacon against his turbulence. As the last traces of daylight receded, Kadhir felt a burden ease from his spirit. For months, he'd borne these secrets alone, grappling with questions no one else had asked. But now, with Nisha and Arjun by his side, a sense of hope took root. Yes, time still held mysteries and potential heartaches, but he was no longer isolated. Somewhere inside, he still felt that flicker of fear, of what the next rupture in reality might bring, or which past tragedy he might be forced to revisit. Yet, he dared to believe they could confront it together for now. In the quiet hush of that evening, a tiny ember of resolve glowed. No matter the vortices or cryptic glimpses yet to come, Kadhir would not walk that path alone again. Afternoon sunlight filtered through pale curtains, painting soft patterns on the floor. Kadhir perched on the edge of the couch, tension evident in the set of his shoulders. Opposite him sat Nisha and Arjun, both gazing at him, concern and curiosity warring on their faces. He inhaled slowly, as though steeling himself for a leap. "Nisha, Arjun, I need to tell you something," he began quietly. "It'll sound unbelievable, but it's the truth. I've experienced something extraordinary." Nisha leaned forward, her eyes fixed on him. Arjun's posture stiffened, skepticism creeping into his expression, but he motioned for Kadhir to continue. "What is it, Kadhir?" Nisha asked softly. "Just tell us everything." Kadhir's hands trembled slightly, yet his voice grew steadier with each word. "I was pulled into something like a wormhole," he said. "I ended up in the past, our old classroom, and I was the teacher." A brief pause hung in the air, heavy with disbelief. Nisha's eyes widened, one hand rising to cover her mouth. Arjun sat back, astonishment etched across his features. "You're saying you were the teacher?" Arjun repeated, fighting to wrap his mind around it. "The one who taught us relativity? The lesson that practically brought you and Nisha together?" Kadhir nodded, a rueful half smile tugging at his lips. "Yes, that teacher was me," he confirmed. "Strange as it is, it's true." The room fell silent, each of them wrestling with the implications of his confession. Nisha's face paled as old memories surfaced, pieces of a puzzle she had never fully understood. "I remember that day," Nisha whispered, her voice trembling. "It felt different, but I never knew why." She watched the teacher, Kadhir's future self, explain relativity with passion, noticing how her classmate Kadhir caught her attention in a new light. It simply felt important at the time, but she couldn't place the reason. She reached out and placed a hand over Kadhir's. "I believe you," she said, her words quiet yet certain. "But how did you come back? What brought you here?" Kadhir's gaze turned distant. "When I was there," he explained, "I found a small box buried in the backyard. Inside was a letter. It was full of instructions, like someone left it there, waiting for me." Arjun leaned forward, torn between confusion and fascination. "A letter? Any idea who wrote it?" Kadhir shook his head, an edge of frustration creeping into his voice. "I don't know," he admitted. "That's the part that haunts me. But maybe it doesn't matter who. Maybe what matters is following the clues. And I need your help." Nisha's fingers squeezed Kadhir's hand. Her expression, though laced with worry, held a core of determination. "We're with you, Kadhir," she promised. "Whatever this is, we'll face it together." Arjun nodded, letting go of his skepticism. "Count me in," he said. "I have to see where this all leads." Relief swept over Kadhir, easing some of the anxiety knotted inside him. "Thank you," he murmured. "I can't do this alone." Moments later, they lingered in thoughtful silence. Light streamed in through the windows, but a gentle hush filled the living room. "After that lesson," Nisha began, her voice gentle, "I remember feeling a shift, like something changed in how I saw you, how I saw life." Arjun nodded, echoing her memory. "I felt it too. The teacher, you, had a strangely familiar presence. Like we'd met before, or I don't know. Now I'm starting to think it was real. Kadhir glanced between them, his heart swelling with gratitude and renewed conviction. Then we'll face this together, he said firmly. In that moment, words weren't needed to confirm the unspoken bond. The three of them sat in silence, an electric undercurrent of resolve weaving through the air. Whatever mysteries lay buried in Kadhir's past or future, they'd stand as a team against whatever time had in store. Soft afternoon sunlight spilled through the sheer curtains, bathing the living room in a gentle glow. The air felt still, yet not stifling, a hush that carried the weight of unspoken concerns. Kadhir sat on the couch, his posture rigid, as though bracing for a storm. To his right, Nisha leaned forward, hands loosely clasped in her lap. To his left, Arjun settled back, brows knit in a quiet but intent expression. A palpable tension lingered between them, not hostile but heavy with expectation. It had been building since Kadhir first mentioned his mysterious encounters with time. With the hush of the early afternoon pressing in, that tension felt ready to snap. Kadhir drew a breath so shaky it sounded like a stifled sob. When he spoke, his voice quivered just enough to betray his struggle. "There's something else I need to share," he began, staring down at his clasped hands. "It's been haunting me, and I can't pretend otherwise. On my way back to..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "The wormhole, or whatever it was, I got pulled into another moment in time." Nisha shifted closer, and Arjun's watchful gaze sharpened. Though they had begun to accept the strangeness of Kadhir's experiences, each new revelation tested the limits of their understanding. Kadhir swallowed hard, summoning the courage to describe a vision he still wrestled with himself. "I saw my mother," he continued, his tone so low they had to lean in to catch every syllable. "Right before her accident, she was standing there, alive and unaware. So close, and I..." His voice snagged, raw with sorrow. "I wanted to warn her, to drag her away from danger, but she didn't understand. She just walked inside, and then..." He let the sentence hang, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Everyone in the room knew the end of that story, the explosion that forever changed Kadhir's life. But hearing him speak of nearly intervening stirred a new wave of grief. A hush swallowed the living room, broken only by the faint swish of the curtains in the midday breeze. Nisha's hand slowly uncurled, stretching out to cover Kadhir's. He glanced up, finding her gaze brimming with empathy. For a moment words failed her. What comfort could anyone truly offer to a man who had briefly revisited his darkest hour? "Oh, Kadhir," she murmured, her voice hushed and trembling. "That must have been unbearable. To see her again and not be able to change anything." Arjun exhaled, pressing his lips tight in sympathy. His stoic demeanor couldn't mask the compassion in his eyes. "You've been carrying this alone?" Arjun asked quietly, leaning forward. "You couldn't have altered the outcome, you know. It wasn't your fault then, and it isn't now." Kadhir nodded, acknowledging the logic in Arjun's words, yet logic could not banish the guilt gnawing at his heart. "I understand that up here," he said, tapping a trembling finger against his temple. "But in my chest..." His voice wavered. "It's like I'm stuck in that moment, watching her walk into danger, helpless." Nisha tightened her hold on his hands. He felt the comforting warmth of her palms, a quiet reminder that he wasn't alone in his pain, even if it still felt that way. Her gaze never left his face, silently urging him to keep going, to let it all out. "We can't change the past," she said gently, "no matter how much we ache to. Your mother wouldn't want you held hostage by this guilt." Her gentle, unwavering gaze lifted his spirits a fraction. A glimmer of moisture at the corners of Nisha's eyes spoke volumes. She truly felt his torment. Kadhir inhaled, steeling himself to speak again. "She always believed I'd do something great one day," he whispered, his voice gaining a fragile resolve. "I don't want her memory overshadowed by regrets. I want to honor her. But I'm so afraid I'll keep reliving that scene every time another vortex pulls me back." A flicker of pain crossed Arjun's face. He rested his hand on Kadhir's shoulder, the gesture as much a show of solidarity as it was comfort. "That's why we're here," Arjun said earnestly. "We can't erase your past, but we'll help you confront it. You aren't fighting this alone." Kadhir released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Faint but discernible, relief coursed through him like a cool stream through parched earth. The shadows across his features softened, replaced by an exhausted acceptance. "Thank you," he managed, his voice quieter now but steadier. "I can't do this on my own. Everything feels so big with the time distortions, the letter in the box. But knowing you both believe me, that changes so much." Nisha's thumbs brushed over the back of his hands in a small, reassuring gesture. Her own tears shimmered at her lashes, but she willed them not to fall, determined to be his pillar. "You don't have to have every answer right now," she reminded him, her tone gentle but firm. "One step at a time, Kadhir. First, find a way to make peace with your mother's memory. Then, we can figure out the rest. Together." Arjun nodded, his eyes darting between the two. The living room felt charged with a quiet electricity, 3 people drawn closer by grief, guilt, and hope. Outside, the sun cast shifting patterns on the floor, echoing the flux in their emotions. "Let us carry some of this too," Arjun said, his voice sincere. "Lean on us. We'll tackle these mysteries one piece at a time." A small, weary smile curved Kadhir's lips. The haunting image of his mother stepping into the doomed kitchen still weighed on him. But with every moment Nisha and Arjun stood by him, the burden felt a fraction lighter. "All right," he said, his voice a touch stronger. "No more shutting people out. I promise." They fell silent then, bonded by a mutual resolve. The afternoon light softened, painting the walls in a warm, golden hue. In that luminous hush, the enormity of the past and the uncertainty of the future seemed to recede, if only for a breath. Nisha spoke first, her words calm yet resonant in the stillness. "We'll handle this, whatever this is, as a team. No more secrets." Kadhir answered with a nod, gratitude mingling with lingering sorrow in his eyes. He couldn't bring back the mother he had lost, nor undo the tragedies that shaped him. But with each supportive word from Nisha and Arjun, he felt the faint stirrings of hope. Perhaps the shadows of his past were not unbreakable. Perhaps in time, he could step forward without guilt, chaining him to that most painful memory. The 3 of them leaned closer, forming a circle of quiet unity. Dust motes drifted through the sunbeams, sparkling like tiny stars in the softness of that moment. It was a promise sealed in silence. No matter what turmoil awaited, they would meet it side by side.